Back to school time, right? And the Obama administration is imposing a controversial new education policy on American public schools. And in many places, it will get started this fall. And it appears, according to this video, that a wrong answer on a math test will not be completely wrong as long as the students can explain how they got to the answer, right? We're going to talk about this. Jedediah Bila is a former teacher and an academic dean. She's also a Fox News contributor, and Tamara Holder is a Fox News contributor as well. So, you know, what I was just referring to is that there's a video out there that explains how it's going to work. And it says, so if you multiply 3 times 4 and you get 11, it's not necessarily wrong if you explain to us how you got there. Mm-hmm. You're a former teacher, Jedediah. Is that a problem?
It's a problem for me because in math, accuracy is important and there needs to be a right and a wrong. And I don't want to see kids' egos stroked. I don't want you to be trying to make everyone feel good. This is like, you know, how they hate red pens now because it makes everyone feel bad, and tracking is dangerous because it hurts your self-esteem. Well, that's more of this. They're afraid to tell kids you're doing this wrong because it might hurt their self-esteem, make them feel bad. So in turn, what you have is kids who can't add and subtract, kids who can't divide.
One of the problems with that is, you know, I find this as a parent that, you know, there's a lot of this in the lower grades. If you misspell a word, it's okay. Right. If you want to spell it phonetically or how you hear it, that's fine. But then, you know, I have one who is taking SATs, and wrong answers do not get you anywhere on the SAT. Yeah. So how are we preparing our students this way, Tamara?
Well, the problem is that we are not preparing our students, and we haven't been. And so this is a systemic problem and a crisis in America. And these core standards, or whatever you want to call it, the method to success is very stringent. And what they found is actually that more students don't know how to read, aren't proficient in math, and aren't proficient in English. And so we're trying to create a system where we can keep our children ahead in the future and compete with countries like Finland and South Korea. And so these standards, the previous standards aren't working, and people on the right are so upset that they don't like this new program. But what has worked before?
Well, it's interesting because what I find in this is that it talks about new testing, and the testing is more rigorous, and it has shown that places like New York City, for example, are in much worse shape than anyone thought. So first you have to know how bad things are to figure out where you're going. But it doesn't address teaching. It doesn't address getting rid of dead word in the classroom. You can have standards, but if you don't have somebody, and there are great teachers out there, but a lot of them, you know, who have been around a long time, frankly, don't deserve to be there anymore. So you got to have somebody to teach these standards effectively.
But that's a union problem as well.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at
here. Those are things that are beyond this program.
You need merit pay for teachers. You need school choice. I mean, you need bad teachers to be held accountable in classrooms. The Common Core is a disaster. It's federal overreach, and also it imposes delays.
Like, for example,
hold on. Algebra delayed from one grade to the next.
But how
traditional geometry all of a sudden doesn't work.
These are standards that D.C. has created for years and years and years. President Bush,
these are one-size-fits-all standards that are being imposed in education. Much like Obamacare doesn't work when it's one-size-fits-all.
This
doesn't.
Okay, but all of your arguments can't go to Obamacare.
It's federal intrusion.
But you know, from what I understand, there are states can have flexibility in terms of how they apply these. It's not completely a federal program, and in fact, the people who came up with it are not happy because they feel like President Obama keeps talking about it, makes it look at it. But I think that the bigger picture, and as both of you are touching on, is what's important here. Everybody knows what our kids need to know. The problem is they're not learning it. So you have to go back to the whole picture. The question of tenure, the question of who's teaching, the question of what they have to accomplish in order to get truly competitive.
But when you have fuzzy math being imposed, when you have no longer that there's a right and a wrong in mathematics, and it's happening in reading too, and it's happening, as you said, in spelling. All of a sudden accuracy is being, well, we don't need that anymore because we just want to figure out what you guys think is best, and we don't want to hurt your egos.
We got to go.
I just wanted to say that looking at all of these reports, in 1983 there was a Nation at Risk report. In 1989, President H.W. Bush, he had an education summit, and all of these things were discussed back then. So we have a generation after generation of people who are not being educated.
And we keep throwing more and more money at education. So that's one of the big issues that we got to straighten out here. Jedediah, thank you so much. Tamara, thanks to you as well. Back to school. Ugh, bad time of year.